Today, we're going to exorcise some demons. What's up, horror fans? Welcome back to the channel. It's been 50 years since the original Exorcist, so why not bring us a sequel? Well, when two girls disappear into the woods and return 3 days later with no memory of what happened to them, the father of one girl seeks out Chris McNeil, who has been forever altered by what happened to her daughter, wait for it, 50 years ago, directed by David Gordon Green, and this movie is, of course, hopefully, rated R for violent content, disturbing images, language, and sexual references, and you know most of those are going to come from those sweet, gentle, and wonderful family-centric exorcism scenes. Linda Blair's in here, Jennifer Nettles, and Dowd, who I've actually seen in person before, but it doesn't matter the context, the movie, the genre. She is amazing. She's actually really good in this film, and she plays someone named Anne, so I love that.
Oh, good for you!
The notable names here for me, Leslie Odom Jr., who kind of carries us through some of the more lackluster scenes in this film. His character in Victor, there's a backstory given, a reason why he feels the way he feels, he does what he does. That is barely explored, and honestly, the first time we get that flashback, I'm like, this is out of nowhere and completely pointless, but he's very good in the film. And that connection to his daughter, well, he and this other group of parents, their daughters are friends. They didn't even know that, apparently. Of course, when something like this happens, they're going to start blaming each other, but Odom Jr. is able to bring some levity to these scenes, and the emotions on display when their daughters disappear at the beginning of the movie were actually quite good. I'm not going to make this comparison, but it was giving me like Prisoners vibes. I thought the first act was actually handled better than I imagined it would be. The other notable name here is Ellen Burstyn. Of course, you'll recognize Ellen Burstyn, but you'll recognize that she was in the original Exorcist film, so we have to find a way to connect the two. We have to find a reason to call this the Exorcist Believer. I mean, it makes sense, right? There's an exorcism at the center here, and both of these daughters, they're getting possessed, but the connections to the original movie feel so pointless in this film. We're bringing back Burstyn's character when you really didn't need to, even though I actually like what she was giving, even though I've heard some behind-the-scenes stories that she didn't really want to be here in the first place, but she's so good, it doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter what you think!
Okay, yeah, the connection's a bit pointless, but it does kind of make sense that we're living in this world where exorcisms are a thing and people become possessed, and it may or may not be the same demon, all of those things, yada, yada, yada. Bringing her back and then wasting her on the level that they do in this movie and getting just enough to where you've scratched the surface of where she has been since the original film, but not even remotely delivering on any of that, and using that emotion as a catalyst to try to make us care about anything that she's involved in. And the predictability of one sequence that she is a part of just had me, I was almost giggling. I mean, it was a horrifying sequence, but I'm like, come on, man. Our director here is David Gordon Green, who did Pineapple Express and Stronger and a couple of films, and then all of a sudden, he's on board the Halloween remake sequel. It's a sequel, but I was very excited to see that, and I actually thought he did a nice job with the first film, and if there weren't any sequels, I would have said he's the right guy for this job. But then I saw the two sequels, and each one more lackluster than the last, and I'm feeling like this isn't the right pairing, but he does have a very distinct style, and I believe that style translates in this film. There were some really nice moments where he utilized the camera to its fullest. Now, maybe the editing happens and then everything's jumbled and it's not as seamless and cohesive as he wants it to be, even though he also has a hand in the editing, so I just...
Bro, what are you talking about, man?
But just specifically talking about that very distinct look and feel to his movies in the horror genre. As much as I don't love some of them, they do give you a nice sense of atmosphere. I mean, I was at least somewhat brought into this world, and like I said, I was on board with the first act. All right, it's not the Exorcist that I expect. You're bringing us into here. And now we care about these parents who are looking for their daughters, and something more nefarious must be at play. But then the exorcist sequences start to happen. And at first, It's okay.
I mean, it's alright, like...
Couple of nice thrills and chills, some jump cuts that may startle you, and that's what a lot of these generic studio horror movies do. They don't really build up to anything. They don't utilize suspense. They're just like, jump cut! Scare you to death. Did I get you? No. And whether it's a door opening or a hand hitting a glass window, I could say there's a little bit of creativity in there, but most of it, there just isn't that spark that you need for a sequel to The Exorcist. And I keep coming back to that. Like, why make this a sequel? Why not go your own route and not include this ridiculously shoehorned in subplot? And maybe it would have worked out better in the first 2 acts. But then we get into the 3rd act, and a lot of the important themes that they were trying to build on, like I said, there's a backstory in there, and even some struggle with religion that Leslie Odom Jr.'s character was dealing with. A lot of that just kind of gets put on the back burner, goes out the window a little bit, and we get a generic horror movie in the 3rd act. An exorcism sequence that is fine, but frankly, I can say I've seen better in other movies that aren't Exorcist movies. And you also have some very generic lines, some dialogue in there that tries to tell you things that you could figure out on your own, but also some delivery that just, it wasn't quite up to par. And I'm not putting this on the shoulders of the little girls. I think the little girls did what they had to do. I think there's a nice pairing there, even though they don't share too much screen time together when they're not possessed. But I couldn't help but to have this feeling the entire time I was watching. This just feels like a corporate studio sequel that they felt like they had to do. They paid like $400 million for this IP, and they planned on doing multiple sequels to this film. And this is the film that they start out with. And nothing against Blumhouse, nothing against the studio. I think they've done some really great things. But this just didn't do it. It wasn't a combination of factors that came together. The marriage between David Gordon Green and these actors and really this story did not work as well as I think it could have. I think there's the potential with all of these people. So to have that hope, I don't blame the studio. But I'm watching this and it's a very unnecessary sequel. And I hate to say that, but I kind of saw the first trailer and expected it to be the case. Part of me hoped it would be like Saw X. I'm not looking forward to it. Oh my God, what a surprise. This was quite what I expected. Before I give you my score, if you want to see more horror reviews on this channel, be sure to drop that like and leave a comment. What's the worst horror movie of the year so far? Believer is a poorly edited together combination of ideas that had potential. The film starts out as a somewhat haunting mystery, but slowly morphs into an empty and unnecessary horror sequel. And the whole time I was watching it, especially in the latter half, I'm just rolling my eyes thinking, man, we could have gotten so much better than this. Unfortunately, it was not. Thanks so much for watching. Let me know, what should I review next this weekend? Fair play. And should I review Totally Killer on Amazon? I'm going to let you guys determine that. I'll see you soon.